Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 4.26. Now, in this particular Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali is explaining to us what happens to the chitta when a particular awareness arises in it and how it starts to get bent down by the weightiness of this viveka or this discriminative knowledge, and through that weighing down, how it kind of, gives rise to the understanding of the Purusha and the ultimate realization between chitta and Purusha. So let's take a good look at this sutra, start breaking it up word by word, and then start understanding it a little bit better. So the sutra itself goes, Tada viveka nimnam Kaivalya praga bharan chittam. So this is the sutra itself. Now let's break it up word by word to understand it a little bit better. So the first word over here is tada, which means then. The next word is viveka, which essentially refers to the discrimination between the Purusha and the chitta. Right? So that sense of realization, that sense of differentiation which comes about when one understands the difference between Purusha and chitta. Then coming to the next word, we have nimna, which basically means something that's bent down. So the act of bending down or bending forward. And then the next word is Kaivalya. So Kaivalya is the ultimate goal of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras as well as the ultimate goal of the Sankhya Karika. And then after that comes Praga Bhara. Now Praga Bhara, interesting compound word. The word is Praka, which becomes Praga, but it basically means something that happens before, like an anticipatory way, something that happens previously. And then the next word is Bhara. Now Bhara is also, with reference to the Hindi word Bhari, which means that something is really, really heavy. So like a burden or something that's challenging to carry. That is Bhara. Now here it is with reference to Kaivalya, but we'll come to that. But this is what it means with Praga Bhara. And then is Chitta, which of course is the consciousness principle that we've been studying so far. So these are the meanings of all the words. Now let's go a little bit deeper into the sutra and start to understand what exactly is it saying with respect to the meaning of the sutra. So the meaning is saying that then at the time when this Atma Bhava is getting removed, what starts to happen is the chitta gets bent downwards by the gravity of the viveka, by that discriminative ability that has now arisen, which is basically bending down the chitta. The chitta is being almost surrendering to that understanding of the viveka. And then finally, it is also taking on a little bit of the load or the preload of Kaivalya, which is about to emerge. So it's very visual. I feel this sutra is quite a visual one. If you really visualize it, you'll be able to understand it. So if you look at chitta, alright, and you imagine chitta to be let's say like a circular ball, and then you imagine that there is something like a viveka which is coming in the form of a rectangle that's kind of pushing that ball downwards. Now that's fine, viveka is doing this much, but now along with that there is another, say a triangle or an element which is emerging, which is pushing both of them down because it's about to reach the Kaivalya stage. So that triangle is representative of the sort of like a precursor of the heaviness of the Kaivalya which is going to come. And here heaviness does not mean like literally physically heavy, but it means that it's going to make the chitta surrender in a way that the chitta now is like, oh my God, I understand so much more. I see the viveka, I see the difference, I understand this knowledge, and therefore I surrender in a beautiful way. It's not a forceful surrender. It's not something that the chitta is doing out of being overwhelmed by viveka. It's doing it in a very gentle, loving and kind way. The way sometimes some of us surrender to forms of divinity. We have so much love that we surrender to it. We don't do it because we're scared or because we're like, oh my God, let me fall to the divine's feet. We're doing it because we feel so much gratitude, love, kindness, joy, all those emotions, that we start to surrender and kind of bend down. So that's what's happening to the chitta in this case, where it's so taken in a good way by the understanding of the Viveka, the difference between the Purusha and the Chitta, the Viveka Khyati, that it kind of just surrenders. And then on top of that, because it's surrendering so beautifully, there is like a precursor of the weightiness of the Kaivalya, which makes it surrender even further, because the Chitta realizes how close it is to the Kaivalya practice. So it definitely takes a certain amount of time to reach those stages, but it's really, really important to understand this and to get a grasp of how exactly it works. So this is what we understand with this particular sutra, and we have been given the information about this particular Viveka Kaivalya process. But now let's go into it a little further and try to see on a deeper level what is a sutra trying to say. So it's also really important to remember that this sense of Atma Bhavana is constantly present within all of us. It tends to go away a little bit and maybe experience nivritti in the states of Nirbija Samadhi, but that's pretty, rare. It happens in glimpses, it's not as permanent. So then if it happens in closer stages of Dharmamegha Samadhi, and as the yogi is transitioning between Nirbija and Dharmamegha and very, very deep stages of Samadhi, that is sort of where there is a deeper realization of what is being understood as Viveka, and that is causing the yogi to surrender. There's also a different way to interpret this, which is that the yogi realizes how little the I means, how little the sense of self means in the grand scheme of things. And so he or she also develops certain qualities of being humble, being a little more submissive to the universe, and just surrendering, believing that everything is going to happen in the right way and at the right time. So that sense of surrender and less ego sense that arises in that kind of a sadhak also sometimes is attributed to this viveka, which plays on the chitta and then results in a more humble, a more relaxed kind of a persona over time. So that is basically what is mentioned in the sutra. Along with that, of course, we have to remember that this is really marking the arrival of the Kaivalya stage. It's such an important sutra because after this we get introduced to Kaivalya in a much more meaningful and a much more detailed way. So here we're being told that Kaivalya is so it's just something that's going to awe the chitta so much that the chitta is going to feel like surrendering and is going to be overwhelmed with emotion and positive emotion and feel like surrendering further. It also very often reminds me of a poem that we'd studied when we were in school. It was actually a Hindi poem where we were told about the moment where, if some of you have studied Ramayana, you might understand this, but the moment where Hanuman, the devoted sort of companion in many ways, but the devoted humble servant, as he calls himself, of Lord Ram, and Lord Ram and Hanuman came, face to face, and Hanuman experienced and understood the divinity within Ram, and it was such a beautiful moment for Hanuman because he just was so overwhelmed with emotion to see that this is the Lord, this is my Lord, and he had a moment where he just completely surrendered and was, and in that poem, I remember it was described as the happiness was so deep that it was indescribable, and all Hanuman was doing was crying and at the feet of Lord Ram. And then Lord Ram, of course, lifted him up and said, hey, look at me eye to eye, and what are you experiencing? But it was such a beautifully described poem, and I still remember it, even though it's been years since I was back in school. But it really showed me the emotion that one can feel for this kind of a surrender to the divine. And I think that's kind of what this sutra is implying when it says that the chitta is overwhelmed in a good way, in a very awestruck way, and feels like just surrendering to the understanding of Viveka and the knowledge of Kaivalya, which is about to enter its realm and change the chitta forever. So this is a little bit of Sutra 4.26. Of course, we've only touched on some key surface themes, but if you'd like to go deeper into the sutra and understand it even further, please feel free to reach out to us. Our links for bookings are in the description, and you can book on and come and join us for class. And we'd absolutely love to see you in the session. Apart from that, please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Do share it with your friends and family if you found it useful, and also let us know your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section below. Apart from that, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we release a new video. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next video, class, course, or workshop. Until then, take care, keep practicing, and we will see you very soon. Namaste.